Chain her to the tree. HOA Karen screamed as men dragged my 5-year-old Sophia through the snow into the dark forest. She's violated noise ordinances for the last time. They chained my freezing daughter to an oak tree in her pink pajamas. Karen didn't know I'm SWAT Lieutenant Martinez. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Daddy, help me. Sophia cried, her little boots slipping on the icy ground as the men pulled her deeper into the woods. Margaret Thompson, the HOA president everyone called Karen, was following them with heavy metal chains and a padlock. Snow was falling hard, and Sophia was only wearing her pink pajamas and slippers. What the hell are you doing? I shouted, running after them into the freezing forest. Teaching you a lesson about following rules. Margaret yelled back. Your daughter has violated noise ordinances for the last time. It was 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Sophia had been playing quietly in our backyard, building a small snowman, when Margaret and her 2 hired men broke down our fence and grabbed her. She's 5 years old. I screamed, chasing them deeper into the snowy woods. Old enough to learn consequences. Margaret replied coldly. Sophia has been laughing too loudly, singing songs and disturbing the peace. Since you won't control her, I will. They reached a large oak tree about half a mile into the forest. The men forced Sophia to sit in the snow with her back against the rough bark. She was already shivering, her lips turning blue from the cold. Please don't hurt my baby. I begged, but one of the men pointed a gun at me. Stay back or we shoot, he warned. Margaret wrapped the heavy chain around Sophia's small waist and the tree trunk, then clicked the padlock shut. My daughter was now chained to a tree in a snowstorm, wearing only thin pajamas. Daddy. Sophia sobbed, pulling at the chains. I'm so cold. Help me. She stays here until you pay $50,000 in HOA fines, Margaret announced. Plus $25,000 for this special lesson. When you bring me $75,000 cash, I'll give you the key. What Margaret didn't know was that I wasn't just David Martinez, single father. I was Lieutenant David Martinez of the State Police SWAT Division, and I had been recording everything on my phone since the moment they grabbed Sophia. You're insane. I shouted at Margaret as Sophia cried in the snow. She'll freeze to death. Then you better hurry with that money, Margaret smiled cruelly. Banks open at 9 a.m. You have 3 hours. Sophia's tiny body was shaking violently from the cold. Her pink pajamas were already soaked through with snow, and frost was forming on her eyelashes. Daddy, I can't feel my fingers, she whimpered. The chain was so tight around her waist that she couldn't move more than a few inches. Margaret had planned this perfectly. The tree was far enough from any hiking trails that no one would accidentally find Sophia. Why are you doing this? I asked, pretending to be helpless while secretly activating my emergency SWAT beacon with my phone. Because you people don't learn, Margaret snarled. I've been HOA president for 8 years, and families like yours think you can ignore my authority. Your daughter laughs too loud, plays too much, and disturbs our peaceful neighborhood. She pulled out a thick folder of papers. Sophia has 127 noise violations. Each one carries a $500 fine. Plus late fees, interest, and now emergency enforcement costs. Margaret had been targeting us since we moved to Willowbrook Estates 4 months ago. As a single Hispanic father, I didn't fit her vision of the perfect neighbor. She would stand outside our house with a stopwatch, timing how long Sophia played outside. She measured the volume of my daughter's laughter with a sound meter. I have to work extra shifts to afford this house, I had told her once. I can't watch Sophia every second. Then maybe you shouldn't live here, Margaret had replied coldly. Now she was trying to freeze my daughter to death over HOA violations. While Margaret continued her cruel speech, I was secretly sending emergency codes to my SWAT team. My phone's GPS was transmitting our exact location to headquarters. The weather report says it's going to snow harder, Margaret said, looking up at the dark clouds. Temperatures dropping to 15 degrees. Hope you can get that money fast. Sophia was crying softer now, which scared me more than her loud sobs. Hypothermia was setting in. Her lips were turning purple and she was starting to shiver less, a dangerous sign. Daddy, I'm so sleepy, she whispered. Stay awake, baby. I called to her. Keep talking to Daddy. Let me at least give her my jacket, I begged Margaret. No, she said firmly. This is a lesson. Comfort makes lessons less effective. One of Margaret's hired men checked his watch. Boss, maybe we should. Shut up, Margaret snapped. Mr. Martinez is going to learn that HOA rules are not optional. What none of them realized was that I had been buying time. My SWAT team was already mobilizing. I could hear the faint sound of helicopters in the distance, still too far for Margaret to notice but getting closer. "Please," I said, continuing to act helpless. "I'll get your money. Just don't let her freeze." "Then start walking to the bank," Margaret ordered. "Leave your phone here so you can't call for help." 7 minutes after Margaret chained Sophia to the tree, I heard the beautiful sound of SWAT helicopters approaching fast. Margaret's face went white as the noise got louder. "What is that?" she asked nervously. "Sounds like helicopters," I said calmly, no longer pretending to be helpless. 3 black helicopters appeared over the treeline, circling our position. Loudspeakers crackled to life. "This is State Police SWAT. You are surrounded. Release the child immediately." Margaret's 2 hired men started panicking. "You didn't tell us cops were involved." "They can't be here for us," Margaret said, but her voice was shaking. "We're just enforcing HOA rules." "Margaret Thompson, step away from the child. You have 60 seconds to comply." The helicopters were landing in a nearby clearing. Within moments, 20 SWAT officers in full tactical gear were surrounding us, assault rifles trained on Margaret and her men. "How do they know my name?" Margaret whispered. "Because I told them," I said, pulling out my SWAT badge. "Lieutenant David Martinez, State Police. You just kidnapped and endangered the life of a police officer's child." Margaret's face went completely white. You're a cop?" "SWAT team leader," I corrected. "And you just committed about 15 felonies in front of my entire unit?" "Freeze. Hands in the air," my SWAT teammates shouted as they moved in. The 2 hired men immediately dropped their weapons and surrendered. Margaret stood frozen in shock, still holding the padlock key. "Give me that key right now," I ordered. I was just enforcing legitimate HOA authority," Margaret stammered. "You chained a 5-year-old to a tree in a snowstorm," Sergeant Williams shouted. "Give us the key." Margaret's hands were shaking so badly she dropped the key in the snow. Officer Chin quickly retrieved it and rushed to Sophia. "Hey sweetheart," Officer Chin said gently as she unlocked the chain. "We're going to get you somewhere warm." Sophia was barely conscious, her body limp from hypothermia. The moment the chain came off, I scooped her into my arms. "Daddy?" she whispered weakly. "I'm here, baby. You're safe now." Paramedics were already running through the snow with warm blankets and medical equipment. They wrapped Sophia in heated blankets and started checking her vital signs. "Mild hypothermia," the lead paramedic reported. "We need to get her to the hospital immediately." As they loaded Sophia into the medical helicopter, I turned to face Margaret. She was now handcuffed and surrounded by my SWAT team. "Miss Thompson," I said coldly, "you're under arrest for kidnapping, child endangerment, assault and attempted murder." At the hospital, doctors worked to warm Sophia's core body temperature. She had been minutes away from severe hypothermia that could have caused permanent damage or death. "A few more minutes and we might have lost her," Dr. Peterson told me. "You got to her just in time." While Sophia recovered, my SWAT team was conducting a full investigation into Margaret's HOA operation. What they found was shocking. Margaret had been using her HOA position to terrorize families for years. She had fake legal documents claiming she could seize property, detain children, and even evict families for violations. In her home office we found detailed files on every family in the neighborhood. She had been systematically targeting single parents, minorities, and anyone she considered undesirable. "Look at this," Detective Rodriguez showed me a thick folder labeled Martinez Family Elimination Plan. The folder contained detailed surveillance notes on Sophia's daily activities, sound recordings of my daughter playing, photos taken through our windows, a step-by-step plan to force us out of the neighborhood. Margaret had been planning to escalate her harassment until we either paid impossible fines or moved away. Chaining Sophia in the forest was meant to be the final step. The investigation revealed that Margaret wasn't working alone. She had convinced several other HOA board members that they were protecting neighborhood values from problem families. Board member Robert Hayes had provided the chains and padlock. Sarah Mitchell had scouted the forest location. Tom Bradley had hired the 2 men with guns. All of them claimed they thought it was legal because Margaret showed them fake court orders authorizing enhanced enforcement of HOA rules. "She told us the police approved this method," Robert Hayes said during interrogation. "She had official-looking documents. But phone records showed Margaret had been planning this for weeks. Text messages revealed her true motives. That Martinez brat needs to learn her place," she had written to Sarah Mitchell. "Time to show these people what happens when you don't respect authority," she texted Tom Bradley. "If we make an example of the kid, other families will fall in line," she told Robert Hayes. The story exploded across national news within hours. HOA president chains 5-year-old to tree in snowstorm became the biggest story in the country. Video footage from our SWAT helicopter cameras showed the dramatic rescue. Images of tiny Sophia chained to a tree in her pink pajamas while snow fell around her went viral on social media. The hashtag Justice for Sophia started trending worldwide. Millions of people shared the story, expressing outrage at Margaret's cruelty. News crews surrounded our hospital and our house. Every major network wanted interviews. The story had everything: child endangerment, corrupt authority figures, and a dramatic SWAT rescue. "This is the most disturbing case of HOA abuse we've ever documented," said Karen Williams from the National HOA Reform Alliance. "Chaining a child to a tree in freezing weather is attempted murder, not rule enforcement." Margaret's photo was on every news channel. She became the most hated person in America overnight. "As a police officer, I couldn't be involved in Margaret's prosecution, but I made sure she got the best legal team working against her." Margaret Thompson was charged with attempted murder, chaining a child in deadly weather; kidnapping, taking Sophia against her will; child endangerment, exposing her to life-threatening conditions; assault with deadly weapons, the men with guns; false imprisonment, chaining her to the tree; conspiracy, planning with other board members; extortion, demanding money for Sophia's release; abuse of authority, misusing HOA position. The charges carried a potential sentence of life in prison. Her co-conspirators were charged with conspiracy, child endangerment, and accessory to attempted murder. The 2 hired men were charged with kidnapping and assault with deadly weapons. "This is the most serious case of HOA abuse in American history," said District Attorney Michael Chin. "We will prosecute this to the fullest extent of the law." Sophia spent 3 days in the hospital recovering from hypothermia. Her core body temperature had dropped dangerously low, and doctors had to slowly warm her to prevent shock. "Daddy, why did the mean lady chain me to the tree?" she asked when she was feeling better. "How do you explain to a 5-year-old that an adult tried to kill her over HOA violations?" "Some people have very sick minds," I told her. "But most people are good, and good people will always protect children like you." "Will she try to hurt me again?" "Never," I promised. "She's going to jail forever and I'll always protect you." Sophia had nightmares for weeks. She would wake up crying about being cold and chained. The trauma counselor said it would take time, but children are resilient. Slowly, with therapy and love, Sophia began to heal. She started playing outside again, though she stayed close to the house. She was more cautious around strangers, but her bright personality gradually returned. Margaret's trial began 6 months later. The courtroom was packed with media and outraged citizens who had followed the case. I testified about finding my daughter chained to a tree in a snowstorm, barely conscious from hypothermia. "She was so cold she could barely speak," I told the jury. "Her lips were purple and she was slipping into unconsciousness. If we had arrived 10 minutes later, Sophia might have died." The prosecution played audio recordings of Margaret's phone calls. "Chain her tight so she can't escape," Margaret had told Robert Hayes. "The colder she gets, the faster Daddy will pay. Make sure you pick a tree far from any trails," she told Sarah Mitchell. "No one can find her until we get our money." The defense tried to argue that Margaret genuinely believed she had legal authority to enforce HOA rules, but the evidence was overwhelming. Security camera footage showed her buying chains at a hardware store. Her internet search history included, "How long does hypothermia take?" and "Survival time in snow." The jury deliberated for only 2 hours before finding Margaret Thompson guilty on all charges. The judge sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. "Miss Thompson," Judge Patricia Williams said at sentencing, "you chained a 5-year-old child to a tree in a snowstorm and left her to die. Your actions were not rule enforcement, they were attempted murder motivated by hatred and power hunger. You will spend the rest of your life in prison." The other HOA board members received sentences ranging from 10 to 20 years. The 2 hired men were sentenced to 25 years each for assault with deadly weapons. When the verdicts were read, the courtroom erupted in applause. Justice had been served. After Margaret's conviction, Willowbrook Estates completely transformed. The residents voted to dissolve the corrupt HOA and create a new one focused on building community instead of enforcing arbitrary rules. Mrs. Chin, the elderly woman who had always been kind to Sophia, was elected as the new HOA president. Her first act was to eliminate all punitive fines and create programs to help families instead. HOAs should bring neighbors together, not tear them apart, she said at her first meeting. The neighborhood became a real community. Children played freely without fear of violations. Families helped each other with yard work and childcare. Block parties replaced fine notices. Sophia made close friends with other children whose families had been targeted by Margaret. They formed a tight-knit group that looked out for each other. The case led to major changes in HOA laws across the country. Sophia's law was passed, creating strict limits on HOA authority and mandatory oversight of board actions. The law made it illegal for HOAs to target children for adult violations, use physical force or intimidation, claim law enforcement authority, impose life-threatening punishments, operate without transparent oversight. I worked with legislators to ensure the law had real teeth. HOA officials who abuse their authority now face federal charges, not just local violations. The law also created a national database of HOA violations, so corrupt officials like Margaret can't just move to new neighborhoods and start over. 2 years have passed since that horrible morning when Margaret chained Sophia to a tree in the snow. My daughter is now 7 years old, strong and confident. She still remembers what happened, but it no longer controls her life. She's learned that standing up to bullies and telling the truth helps protect other children. "Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be a police officer like you," she told me recently. "You already help people, sweetheart," I replied. "By being brave and telling everyone what happened, you help change laws to protect other kids." Sophia plays freely in our backyard now, building snowmen without fear. The oak tree where she was chained has been removed, and in its place, the community planted a garden with a plaque reading "Sophia's Garden Where Hope Grows." Margaret Thompson remains in federal prison, where she will spend the rest of her life. She never showed remorse for what she did, claiming until the end that she was maintaining standards. The 2 hired men are also in prison. The corrupt HOA board members lost their homes and reputations. Justice was completely served. This story isn't just about one corrupt HOA president. It's about the importance of protecting the innocent, standing up to bullies, and ensuring that authority is used to help people, not hurt them. Margaret Thompson thought she could terrorize my family because we were different. She thought her HOA position gave her the right to chain a child to a tree in deadly weather. She had no idea she was targeting the daughter of a SWAT team leader who had the training, resources, and determination to bring her to justice. But even if I had been just a regular father, I would have moved heaven and earth to save Sophia. That's what parents do, we protect our children no matter the cost. The irony is perfect. She tried to abuse fake authority against someone with real authority to stop her. Sophia is thriving now. She's in 2nd grade, loves to read, and helps other kids who are scared or sad. She still wears pink pajamas to bed, but now they represent comfort and safety, not terror. Every morning when I drop her off at school, I watch her run to her friends with that same bright smile she had before Margaret tried to destroy our lives. She's safe, she's loved, and she's free. And Margaret Thompson will never hurt another child again. In the end, love conquered hate, justice defeated cruelty, and a little girl's laughter once again fills our home. That's the most beautiful victory of all.